Thank you very much, Les Councillor. And Minister, first of all, to yourself and Minister John Cummins, an awful lot of good sound work has gone into this Planning and Development Amendment Bill of 2025. The pause of the duration of permissions due to judicial reviews, the extending of that is to give what I'd call back the time. That is very, very important. Also, the containment in the bill of the extension of the duration for uncommenced housing developments, including single house developments which have less than 2 years of duration of their permission remaining. That's very, very important. An extension of up to 3 years may be sought, provided it is applied for within 6 months of the provision commencing. That's very important. I do appreciate the Planning Authority must be satisfied that the development will be completed within a reasonable time. If the duration is extended under this provision, the works must commence within 18 months of the provision commencing, or the extension will cease to have effect. They're very sensible measures that will have a direct input on the ground to people. There are other works that have been carried out which are gone for consultation now, such as the exemptions for development. This is going to be a very welcome development for our local authorities, because the planning departments of our local authorities are engaged an awful lot, Minister, with what I would call gobbledygook, things that are a waste of time for them, but at the same time the people have to apply for. And thankfully, this government is listening to common sense, because this was something that myself and my brother, Michael Healy-Rae, were very, very anxious to have in this time of this government, and that was these exemptions. I'll give you an example of the exemptions. The idea and the provision of modular homes. Modular homes are very, what I would call, high class now. And they're good accommodation, less colour. They're not some airy-fairy thing at the bottom of the garden. These are sound, sensible housing solutions. They can be short term, they could be a longer term. They're warm, they're comfortable, they're well insulated, they're properly ventilated, and the idea that a person will be able to apply to put in one of these units in the curtilage of their home and have that as a housing solution. It could be for an older person, young couples that need to get going on the property ladder. I really think that's very good. But there's an awful lot of other things as well. The subdivision of houses, large houses, the idea of attic development being able to be developed without having to go to the Planning Authority. That's what I would call sound, sensible work by you and by Minister John Cummins, and I very, very much appreciate that. The whole idea then of young people, which in County Kerry, we have an awful lot of people who don't want anything from anybody. They don't want anything. They don't want money. They don't want anything. What they want, less colour, is a piece of paper telling them, you have them, less colour. People who say, give me a piece of paper, granting me a permission. I have land. I have my own way between my bit of savings, my mortgage that I hopefully will get, which the banks could loosen up a small bit too and see after our young people and be more user-friendly when it comes to giving loans. But if they get that golden piece of paper giving them permission to build their houses, that's all they want from the state. That's all they want. And every way that we can encourage that to happen and allow these young people to be able to build their own homes, that's what this government is about, and that's what we want to do. One thing about Bord Pleanála, and you see, our late father always said, you can say anything, less colour, once you're telling the truth. And this has to be put on record in this house. When you have a situation that a person is referred to Bord Pleanála, and an inspector goes to look at the proposed development, and that inspector is on the ground looking at what is proposed, and when they do up a report and come up to Dublin saying that they recommend a grant of permission in this case, and they go before the board. Now, a lot of people in Ireland, they might think that the board is a very well organised thing and that there's a big crowd of people. It's like a cabinet meeting. Well, I can tell you it's not. When Bord Pleanála meet, it might be the inspector that has come back with his or her report, and it could be 2 other people. And this could be happening at 5 o'clock or 7 o'clock or 9 o'clock at night, whenever it suits those individuals to have their meeting. And what can happen then, less colour, is the hard-working person who has said and gone to great detail and visited the site, they might be recommending that yes, this planning should be granted. But all of a sudden, the 2 geniuses that were never maybe in the county, they'll say, oh no, we don't agree with you. And that person gets outnumbered by 2 to 1. And that means that person's hope, that could be a young person above in Glencar or somewhere that's looking to build a house for themselves. That could be a developer. And there's nothing wrong with being a developer in Alaska Colour. There's nothing wrong with being a hard-working builder who maybe has the wherewithal to build 10 houses or 50 houses or 100 houses. And this government, and I'm glad that the Taoiseach recognises that the private involvement by the private sector is very important in taking care of the future housing needs, because as a state, we won't be able to do it all. And we need those big developers. We need those small developers. We need medium-sized developers. But when their work is going before the board, and when these people in their infinite wisdom take it upon themselves to dash those hopes and those dreams, and when they say no, not only are they saying no to that person, but they're saying no to everything that was in the report. They're going against their own inspector. And I would ask you, Minister, that to use your influence, to say to these people that common sense would have to prevail. Maybe they don't realise there's a housing crisis. They don't have to face the people. They don't have to go to clinics and hear young people saying, I had my planning got from my local authority. I was taken to Borplanala, an inspector came down, he agreed with the local authority, and 2 other geniuses above in Dublin said no. And that's what's happening, Lascyon. And these geniuses in Borplanala who take it upon themselves that the only word they seem to know is no, maybe they could be told that yes is an option as well. And yes is something that they could say as well. And maybe if they have a home themselves, maybe they might think of the people who don't have a home. And maybe they might think of the people who have spent a fortune on their planning application. And I really think that it is so important that common sense prevails. There is a housing crisis. This government, and I'm grateful, it is a #1 priority. The money that is being spent on housing, and of course we have to address issues like infrastructure with Irish Water. We have to see after our small towns and our villages that need extensions to sewerage schemes. We need an extra provision of potable water for these towns, so that these towns and villages will be areas where we actually can come along and put in a planning application. But it needs to work together. And when I see the judicial reviews, and this is why what you have done here is so important, where I said at the very beginning, where judicial reviews are taking place, and where I call it we're being robbed of time, that you will be able to help in that situation. That's what I'd call sound, sensible work. And whether other people want to recognise your work or not, but I'll tell you here and now, I do. Because I appreciate what you're doing, I appreciate the way your head is thinking.
Your time,
sorry?
Your time.
Oh, sorry. And, but I just want to say that try to bring common sense at all times in your role, and we'll support you in every way we can in the work you're doing.